I'm Chad and welcome back to Tamaqua Free Press. We're looking at micromobility in Tamaqua today. Micromobility is consisting of things like walking, cycling, skateboard, rollerblading, basically any method that's not involving a car or a truck or a bus or anything motorized, more or less. Yes, that still includes e-bikes, because e-bikes are still considered micromobility, and so are e-scooters. So we're going to wander around the borough, so to speak, and we're going to look for different intersections and safety and how practical they are. And at the end of the video, we're going to do a recap and see how feasible micromobility is in Tamaqua, how safe it is, and what hazards or what positives can be found here. Behind me is something, it's both good and bad depending on how you are. Throughout the borough, because of the way it's structured, they've installed all of these stairwells that go up to, as you can tell, go up to another street. These are put in because there are some very steep areas in town, and the way the streets are, they run parallel to the streets below. So to access where I'm standing now, if this steps wasn't here, it's going to add approximately 0.3 miles to your walk, which is definitely inconvenient. So having these steps here is fantastic. They are steel, they are maintained, and I can't show it from here because the way the angle is. These are open grate, so even through foul weather, water runs through, and they're quite safe, quite good. I've used them multiple times. But the issue becomes is, what if you can't traverse steps? What if you're in a mobility scooter, or you have a bike, or I mean, I guess technically if you have a bike, you carry it down the steps, depending on the weight. Scooters be far easier, and it's great for walkers, but it doesn't do a lot for people who have mobility scooters. And up top, that road is good for them, but they can be incredibly steep roads coming back down. So this is great for some people, not great for everyone. You can get a good view from here exactly how some of these step systems work. This is a completely different one from the one that was shown earlier, but as you can see, this is multiple flights of steps. It goes up to one street, you cross over the street, and it takes you up to another street, and that's as high as they go. We even have a bus barn here, a little shelter, but the issue is they took the benches out, so it's now just a covering and you need to stand there. And there's actually a bus stop on both sides of the street, and there is not a bus barn there. So that's what you got, standing room only. We have another shelter bus stop. This one actually has chairs in it, or a bench. Yet across the street is the other one, another bus stop with no shelter. So once again, depending what direction the bus is going, you'll have some sort of shelter. Here we are, one intersection away from the last intersection that had no ADA ramps, and saying that's probably temporary, 1 block away. And you can see that this entire intersection has been redone and all ADA ramps have been installed. And unfortunately, no one really cleans up after them, so the anti-skid tends to not necessarily work that well. But everything is a process. As you can see, everything here is being upgraded. It just takes time. Now, there is definitely positive infrastructure here. Here we can see a bike rack in front of the public library, which is always great. I don't often see it used, but it's great to see that it's here and available. Here we have another bike rack. This one happens to be in front of the local bicycle shop. Actually, it's the only one in town, but again, at least here's another ability for people who are out moving about to have a place to secure your bike. All right, here we go. Here's another random public bicycle rack, which is actually right outside of a local gym, though you can't really tell from here. So there we go. At least we have a second bike rack that's readily available. Crossing the street is pretty much like any other location. You press the beg button and then you wait. Here at the 5 Points intersection is the only intersection in the borough that once that button is pressed and it's your time to cross, as we see coming up here, it is the only intersection in the borough where it is a completely protected crosswalk. When you have the right to cross, you can cross with no incoming traffic. All traffic in the intersection stops. But all the other intersections in the borough are like this. As soon as it turns green, you get to cross. We have an intersection here, a three-way T intersection. One of those I can see is a one-way, but you have 2 lanes of traffic. This is a very heavily traveled route. Where the one-way is pointing, there's a large parking lot, and there are several businesses over there, including a restaurant, the only hardware store that's walkable or even into town. And yes, there is another crosswalk straight ahead. But the issue is that trying to cross at any of these crosswalks is incredibly difficult because you're pretty much hoping that someone is going to stop and allow you to cross, which is actually really infrequent through here. There's no controlled intersection, there's not even a pedestrian crossing sign. It's uncontrolled. So to cross here, you're pretty much you're taking a lot of chances. And these are very big businesses through here in this area, and it's also heavily trafficked. So trying to cross here on any vehicle, and as you can tell, there's also not even a share road, there's no bike lanes, there's nothing here. So you're kind of really just taking your life in your own hands at this intersection. I did insult this intersection before, but even some bad stuff can have good stuff. And here we have a good example. When they redid this whole area, you can see that you have to step down. So instead of having to make you step down, they did install a ramp that takes you down to street level to a safe, well, not a safe place to cross, but at least to a crosswalk over to the other businesses and parking lots. So even a not great intersection can have positive things. Now this intersection has become a rarity here in town. As you can see, it's a regular intersection, but notice these do not have ADA ramps. Most of the borough now has them at intersections. This one just hasn't been upgraded yet. Earlier this year, they've already done multiple more throughout the borough. So I'm going to show this that it's not a great intersection, but this is probably only temporary for now. They're going to be coming through here at some point and redoing these and putting in ADA ramps. Micromobility also includes vehicles such as the electric mobility scooter that many who are handicapped use for their day-to-day lives. And here we have a crossing at a railroad track where one side is passable, but this side is going to cause its own issues for anyone who is on foot or possibly on a scooter. I mean, there's no guarantee that the scooter is going to be able to cross over these tracks. And this is on a standard walkway, as you can see, that goes from parking lot to restaurant. So this is not going to be beneficial to someone who is not fully capable. Another hindrance to any kind of mobility, micromobility, is going to be construction. Behind us, they're doing major renovations on some buildings that had been involved in a major fire. As you can see, they have things roped off for safety, and there's also a large dumpster roll-off actually in the street. If you were to be walking down through here, you're going to hit this tape and you're going to have to go out into the street because there's no way through. So anyone who would come up through here on a mobility scooter would either have to go off a curb, turn back, cross someplace else, continue on, and if needed to come back to this side, cross at another intersection. Another issue, here we have another complex, how do I do this scenario. Now this is, as you can tell, right down from the 5 Point intersection, the busiest intersection in town. We have things such as gas stations, Dunkin' Donuts, mini markets, restaurants, fast food, car wash, and you can't see it from here, but there's a large grocery store over there. Behind me is also pharmacies and whatnot. So, if you're coming down from one direction and you need to walk down this side, it is an open, non-stop driveway. So, as you can see, traffic here is busy. So you're supposed to walk down an open driveway to get to where I'm standing from a major intersection. Or you have to cross the street down at 5 points to come down this way, which still brings you to this intersection. So again, and as you can see, there's not even walking infrastructure at this point. You're literally taking your own life in your own hands, because as you can see, traffic just comes in and out through here. No one's looking. So to come down this side is dangerous. And that takes us back down to another intersection that's not much better. Yeah, here we look at another issue. There are plenty of homes behind me. And down straight ahead is another business area. There's a pharmacy, Rite Aid, there's a dollar store, fast food restaurants, and the back entrance to the local grocery store. But as you can see, this is not a spot that you'd want to have to cross. I mean, granted, the tracks here appear to be more crossable, but once you get down further, there is no sidewalk. It actually does end, and that is an incredibly busy intersection as well. So even if you wanted to walk the 2 blocks, maybe 3, from your house down to grocery store, pharmacy, whatever else you may need for your daily needs, it's going to be incredibly dangerous. And these are also one of the crossing lights that turn green for you to cross, but they don't stop traffic. And there is 2 lanes, protective left turn lane, and as you can tell, it's a very busy intersection. So even trying to walk from your house down to your essentials, it's dangerous, going through a busy intersection that has no true infrastructure for anyone who's trying to cross that's not in a vehicle. And that's not good, because that's literally telling people, if you're not driving 3 blocks to get to the store, then you don't deserve to be going to the store. All right, here we are, looking the opposite direction on that intersection, and I was actually wrong. There is indeed sidewalks down here, but where you're supposed to cross is going to be right here at this bridge. If you look over here, there is sidewalk, but you get pushed out into the street by these barriers on both sides. So you'd have to, again, following the logic, you would have to walk down cross over here. But as you can see, there is no sidewalk on that side of the tracks or that side. You get pushed out into the street here for the sidewalk to pick up over there. Sidewalk is here, but it ends there. So what is the method that you're supposed to use here? Because no matter how you cross, no matter what direction you go, you're pretty much going opposite of how you're supposed to be to get to this. So none of this makes sense. That makes sense until you get to the other side of it, and it stops making sense. Across from me is a medical facility. It's a convenient care, regular doctor's office, some specialists. This is actually a corner. So anyone who's attempting to cross here is going to have to cross through all this traffic. There is not even a crosswalk available here. So even going to a medical facility, you may end up actually needing a medical facility. Now that brings me to my favorite intersection in town, because it makes absolutely no sense. And I don't even know how you're supposed to drive this, let alone navigate this outside of a vehicle. As you can see, you come up from an intersection and then it splits. Then you have to go left or right. But at the same point, the traffic up on this street is two ways. And as you notice, there is literally no road signs telling you how you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. Also, as you can see, there is a sidewalk indeed that comes up over there and then it swings down and around. But then you come over to this side and there is no sidewalks available until you get down here. So, if you're walking down this side over here and you want to get over to this side, I'm assuming you have to cross up at that corner, walk down this way, and then go back over. Which brings us to the same issue that you find up here. How exactly are you supposed to walk on sidewalks when they're parked on the sidewalk? And then you come around here, and it's the exact same thing, all the way down. But again, there's not always sidewalks on the other side. So to navigate this street and to walk like you're supposed to when it comes to crossing and walking on sidewalks, there is no feasible way on this intersection or this street you are going to be able to do that. And just to make things even better, as we walk over here, we have another step system. So, you come down the steps to the bottom, and then what do? Where do you go? How do you do it? I'm telling you, this is that one intersection in this town that I look at going, I have no idea who planned this or designed this, but it needs to be fixed. So is Tamaqua the micromobility capital of the United States? No. Is there some things that can be fixed? Yes. Are they going to be an easy fix? I mean, it's not hard to paint sharrows on a road, but are they going to start pulling out traffic and traffic lanes and putting in bike lanes? I don't foresee that happening. Another issue with that is the 4 roads that intersect there at the 5 points. Those are all major state roads. So even if the borough wanted to do something, it gets complicated because they're owned by the state. As you can see, that they're fixing a lot of the curbs, putting in ADA curbing, so that's going to increase things. We have 2 high-rises that are for elderly and those who are handicapped. So seeing micromobility in certain areas is common. There's a lot of mobility scooters. There's a lot of kids on bikes, a lot of kids on scooters, adults on bikes. So it's going to come down to what do we want and how to get it. The city or the town is making strides in improving. But if we don't speak up and tell them what we need, they're not going to know. This is where if you don't have infrastructure that you want, it becomes important to get involved. You have borough meetings, town meetings, city meetings, planning commissions, all these different organizations that exist within your townships and cities. So it is up to us to become involved and to make ourselves known. Because the chances are, if you're in a town like I do, of less of 7,000 people, the people who are governing you are car-centric. They don't ride their bikes everywhere. They don't do these things. They're actually not even probably full-time employees. They may get a small amount of money every month. This is not their full-time jobs. So we have to stand up and say, hey, these are things that we need. These are things that need to be fixed. Grassroots activism on things like this is how you're going to get things done. There are other places like Paris who voted somebody in and they just took initiative and had a platform of we're going to fix things and we're going to change things, and have had amazing results in the process. Small towns, that's really not going to be feasible. Even larger cities, they're struggling with some of these things too. So, what does that leave us? It leaves us with, in this town, you can get around. Is it always the safest? No. Is it always the easiest? No. I mean, some of the simple fixes would be changing how traffic lights work. When you push that button and you get the crosswalk, traffic should stop. Because having walked through here constantly, you're going to get left hooked, you're going to get right hooked. Same thing if you're on a bicycle, people don't pay attention. They're in their cars, and if you're not a car, you don't exist. I've actually been riding down the main streets and have had people yell at me to get off the street while on my bike to get back on the curb where I belong, the sidewalk. No, that's actually not allowed in Pennsylvania, especially in business districts. And most of what I travel through is business district. I'm going to show a video of how, I mean, I haven't made it yet, but I want to show a video of what it takes for me to go from my house to the store, the grocery store, and come back. The safety, the safe way of doing it, and what would be the proper way of doing it. And that's going to be pretty telling on its own. So, if you like what you're seeing, please like, please subscribe. I know this is only the second video coming out, and production values aren't the highest. Kind of, backpack journalism at its best. But thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Thank you.